I think this is does John Mateer understand how big a jump he made from Washington State to Oklahoma, where he's got to be the savior at OU, and he's into the SEC, and they will troll your Venmo accounts to find any sort of misgiving? You think he knew what he was getting into?
If he didn't, he does now. Like, you make a great point, Doug. Like, one of the things that I think gets overlooked when you come to a place like Oklahoma, even before it joined the SEC, if we're being honest here, is all eyes are on that team, and you are the most important player on any team. This is after the Thunder have won an NBA title. What still moves the needle in this state is the pro team in Norman, not the one in Oklahoma City. And now that you are going into a year where many people have said such nice things about you, 3,100 yards through the air, 826 on the ground, sack adjusted for more than 1,000, you're supposed to come in and be the next Baker Mayfield, the next Jalen Hurts, the next Kyler Murray. They're going to come after you for things that you didn't even know you did. I remember this tweet surfaced of Kyler Murray years ago as he was getting into the spotlight. And people are going, are we really going to dig up stuff from 2015? Yeah, we are. And even if you thought it was a joke, now you get to understand you don't get to joke like this. You don't get to make an inside joke in any sort of public atmosphere or in any sort of memo, any sort of tweet. If anything, I think he's probably going to say a lot less and only talk to those that he feels comfortable, meaning media days, and then we're back to practice.
Yep. No, okay, what about Oklahoma? You know, last year you were all in, and I was like, I don't know. They had a huge win late in the year, but outside of that, pretty disappointing year. But it's first year in the SEC. It's a massive adjustment. They made some adjustments, right? Change offensive coordinators, go out and spend a bunch of money, retain the guys you want to, and everybody's like, oh, you should be good this year. But the schedule is ridiculous. And last year you had the heir apparent, right, in Arnold as quarterback. He lasted all of 3 games, and now he's playing somewhere else. Give me your honest sense of OU this year.
First of all, that dude that was playing 3 games, he's also playing the SEC. He's also going to start it all, right? Yep. It was a miss. It was an absolute miss after a guy threw for 363 against a 10-win team in a loss, albeit Arizona. We thought that was going to be great. And when he went down the tubes, so did the offense and so did Seth Luttrell, right? You had a brand-new offensive line, which many people overlooked because they had such injuries in the preseason. They got nothing out of the wide receiving corps. I mean, the top receiver had 426 yards for OU last year, which is very un-OU-like. But this is a different year. And, yes, you have a new offense coordinator in Ben Arbuckle, a guy that offensive line coach Bill Bedenbaugh has said reminds him of a young Lincoln Riley. We'll wait and see. Mateer seems to have the juice. I expect him to start week 1. I expect him to play well against Michigan. After that, it's running the gauntlet. Like, it's 5 straight top 25 opponents that they're going to face. We'll see. I can't call it this year, right? Last year I felt really good going into preseason, and then you have the injuries, and then you have the quarterback that doesn't play well, and you don't have anybody capable there. But also, you get Brent Venables calling the defense. And I think that really counts for a lot. I think when Brent is in his element, like he was at Clemson, like he was at Oklahoma, the defense will carry you. And if you can get something out of the offense with Jaden Ott, who when he was last healthy, rushed for 1,300 yards, with Deion Burks, who can take the top off the defense, you can have what I think is a pretty outstanding season, and you're going to earn it every step of the way. I said this last year, and I'm saying it again. Oklahoma fans wanted to join the SEC. They wanted this challenge. Yeah, they're in it now. This is the toughest league in the sport. It's a very thin line between becoming the Oklahoma that you expect to be, say Texas, number 1 team in the country according to most, including me, and Nebraska. One fact that I think is important to note here, Nebraska, USC, and Oklahoma left out of the coaches' poll for the first time as a trio since they started doing this. And a lot of this comes back to one thing. Nebraska wins the Big Ten. USC wins the Big Ten. Oklahoma wins the SEC. There's something to be said about leaving the place that raised you and trying something different and finding out you don't really fit in, and that's affecting you on the football field.
Yeah. Well, I'm fascinated. You know, they got Illinois State at the end of the month, then, you know, Michigan, which is a great test. They go to Temple, then it's Auburn, Kent State, and then Texas in Dallas, South Carolina in Columbia, Ole Miss at home, at Tennessee in Knoxville, at Alabama, home to Missouri, and home to LSU, who beat them badly in the last game of the year. I think that's just that schedule is crazy. It's crazy. And you're right. It's one of the other thing that I think Oklahoma fans, and you and I talked about this last year, is, last year you finished with a disappointing season. But like 8-5, 9-4, it's not a bad year with that schedule. It's just not. In comparison to what you would do in the Big 12, but it's really hard for Oklahoma people because they're so used to a double-digit win season or it's not a good year. That's a really hard mental gymnastics to get through, especially to a school like Oklahoma.
Very much so. Very much so. I think the way that I put this is 8-5 used to be seen as 5-7 when you were talking about the heyday, and that's what we got to talk about it now. It's the heyday. For 18 of 20 years, Oklahoma won 10 games or more, dating back to 2000, right? First losing season 2022 since 97, excuse me. I'm also looking at this and I'm going, two losing seasons in 3 years? I love Brent Venables, and I've been very vocal about this. I really do think he's the guy. I think he's the guy for OU. But if you're looking at odds of the first Power Forward coach to be relieved of his duties, he's at the top of the list, alongside a guy named Sam Pittman, who's also trying to find their way at Arkansas. They do not like being mediocre in these places where we don't really have an NFL presence. We need to be great at this. This is who we are. This is our DNA. 9-4 with this schedule is also assuming you make a bowl game and you win it, right? You go in there at 8-4 and you get to 9-4, or maybe you go in there at 9-3. I think that this Oklahoma team, if it hits on what I think it's going to hit on with the kind of talent they got on the offensive line, with the added of the backfield, I've gone on about this. 10 wins is within reach, right? I think that there are at least 3 teams on that schedule, and I'll include South Carolina, Missouri, and Tennessee. You can go beat. Texas is going to be tough, but it's OU Texas, and I tend to believe that everybody's right about that. Throw it out the window. We'll see who shows up on that day for what is going to be the biggest game, I think, of the SEC era for both OU and Texas, right? And then that LSU game, we'll have to wait and see. If Garrett Nussmeier is still slinging it to guys like Nick Anderson and Barry and Browning, Patrick Payton still coming off the edge, Harold Perkins still coming off the edge, could be a long day. But that's so far down the road, and we don't know what the rankings will look like. What we're calling very, very tough right now might not feel that tough in November, but first you got to get there, and you got to get there with 1, maybe 2 losses, and then try to fight your way into the college football playoff.
And then you got to factor in that the SEC, for the first time in 20 years, maybe there's one other year where they took some on the chin there, in the playoff, and the idea of them being overrated. I don't think they were. I thought that Ole Miss and South Carolina, I didn't think Boise or Indiana or SMU, I didn't think they were at the level of the SEC schools. The investment, and I know Indiana has a lot of money, but Indiana would have been an average team at best in the SEC even last year. That's my belief. Okay? But again, a lot of this is perception based upon the tournament, who got in and who didn't, and the fact that they had some teams lose. So with that in mind, how important a year is it for the SEC in perception of getting back to being the dominant conference?
It is the most important year that they have had since Ohio State first won the college football playoff in 2014, right? Then they were able to establish a bit of dominance. We got Alabama with 8 appearances and 9 wins and 3 national championships during the Nick Saban era. But the last 2 years, not only has the Big Ten won the national championship, the SEC hasn't got a team into the game. And that is new for us, right? We've seen all SEC national championship games, and we've been riveted by them. Now, granted, that's Alabama and Georgia, but LSU also sneaks in here and wins the national championship with quite literally one of the best college football teams that's ever been around. Then you got to take into account Clemson made it into this thing on the back end, right? They get saved by Syracuse, they get in the ACC title game, and they make that work for them. I don't think it's necessarily fair to point out Indiana might be a 4th or 5th best team in the SEC, only because their only losses are to the national champ and the national title runner-up. I get that the schedule was not that difficult for them, and it won't be that difficult for them this year. But I'm going to give them credit for that 11-win season and really a remarkable turnaround that I don't know that we're going to get to see again. That said, Texas Christian made the national title game in 2022 and then went right back into the dumpster. So we'll see. Pedigree does matter here. But if the SEC gets skunked of a team in the national championship game once again, we're going to look at who's in it, and I'll bet it's going to be at least one Big Ten team, and we're going to say the balance of power is swinging to north of the Mason-Dixon line for the first time in quite some time.
That's R.J. Young. Of course, he's the host of the number one show, which is the podcast of record on Fox Sports covering college football. R.J., great stuff. Let's talk as the season kicks off. Always love having you on.
Love you, Doug. Thanks so much for having me.
Love you back. With iHeart Radio app, you can stream